Hey, good afternoon. Good Wednesday afternoon. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Double Shot. In the main segment, coming up in a little bit, we'll be talking about whether or not the Steelers do, in fact, have the number one defense in the entire National Football League. I know. Just stay with me. We'll get there. But first, I'd be remiss if I didn't share with you the single sweetest sound anyone could possibly want to hear in the city of Pittsburgh today. This is Sidney Crosby on a penalty shot. Did you hear that? Did you hear the ping? There was about 1,000 people in there at the UPMC Lemieux Sports Complex up in Cranberry. I was shooting that with the phone. This isn't, some big hardcore decision on my part. There goes Sid the day after he signs, or a couple days after he signs his contract. You just know he's going to score with some prospect goalie at the far end. But that's never enough with him, is it? You got to have the ping. He had to go bar down. First day of camp for the Penguins, and I got to tell you, there was a pretty healthy vibe about all of that. Not just in the locker room, not just in other people that I was talking to, but even some of the fans that I was communicating with there in the bleachers. There's a sense of some renewal. Yes, when you look out there, you still see Sid, you still see Evgeny Malkin, although they both look pretty good. You still see Chris Letang, although he was still faster than most everybody else. But you also see some younger guys. You see some new faces. You see some energy. Energy was the word that Lars Eller used, and I always listen to Lars Eller first and foremost when it comes to this team's vibe.
That's our main objective. We're already, talked about it a little bit, touched on it yesterday. We set our minds to it right now and know that this is the objective for the regular season. Make it into the playoffs. We already talked about a few things that can help us get there. And now it's just laser focus and determination and will that's going to get us here. We have the skill now. There's good energy in here today. Everybody's excited to get going, and some new faces, and it's just good vibes in here.
Good energy, the man said. You heard that. I appreciate his time as always, and I just respect him, what he does on and off the ice so much. But he's also one of those guys who's a weather vane. He's one of those guys who has the feel. And right now, the feel that's in there, and I heard this from not just him, is that bringing in all these younger players that Kyle Dubas did. Some of them are really young, some of them are mid-20s, but they're all at the age where they're going to be at max speed, max energy. That's what was needed in 2023. Look, I was as critical as anybody of Kyle Dubas's work last summer. I've swung like this 180 degrees on that count. Know why? Because he did. He went and got those younger guys. He made trades. He made the Jake Gensel trade, which none of us, I think, myself included, liked at the time. But he brought in Vasily Ponomarev. He brought in Ville Koivunen. And then he makes a trade with the Jets to bring in Rutger McGroarty, giving up his best prospect for their best prospect. Catch is, Winnipeg's best prospect was better than Pittsburgh's best prospect, and the Jets really didn't have a choice but to move the kid. He looked terrific today. He looked like he can be a real live player in the very near-term future. I don't know if it'll be right away, but that unto itself had people energized there. It wasn't just the players. It wasn't just the coaches. I was talking to some of the fans there, and you got the sense from almost everybody. And there were a couple of cynics there, but you got the sense that they want to see this team start pointing toward the future, but also using all of these kids that they've added toward making the entire product look faster and more fun. And I do think this season is going to be more fun. When we come back, as promised, the Steelers defense. At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects. Welcome back again. Penguins opening up training camp. The Pirates are in St. Louis, and the Steelers, of course, are getting ready for the Los Angeles Chargers and their home opener, meaning the Pittsburgh home opener, finally Sunday at Acrisure Stadium. I'm joined now by Chris Halleck, who covers the Steelers for us at DK Pittsburgh Sports. And Chris, I'm going to stick you with a hard one right off the bat. I know you're fresh out of the locker room, and I know you were working on a piece about the offense, and you're interviewing a bunch of guys and everything. I'm going to go to the other side of the ball here and ask you if the Steelers right now, not necessarily 10, 15 games from now, have the best defense in the National Football League.
Ooh, that's a good question. There's a lot of reason to make that argument. I mean, like, there really is a lot of reason to make that argument, just because the defensive line has played, I think, so much better than people expected. I really, truly believe that. Like, I really think that a lot of people thought that this defensive line was going to be like, what's Cam Hayward going to look like at his age? And Larry Ogunjobi, he's so inconsistent. And Keanu Benton, like, yeah, possibly a big year or two thing. Those guys are dominating up front. And because those guys are dominating up front, the inside, we haven't even had to talk about Patrick Queen
inside
or Landon Roberts.
Linebackers not having tackles. I know, because the runners aren't getting there.
They don't have to. And so, I mean, they're not giving up points. I mean, now granted, they played the Falcons, but they only gave up, Falcons look like a pretty good team.
Here's I have the numbers here in front of me. The Steelers, if you go by the simple rudimentary stat total defense, which is nothing other than yards allowed per game, the Steelers rank 5th in the NFL at 260.5. Now, the teams that are ahead of them, the Dolphins are 4th, the Texans are 3rd, the Chargers are 2nd, which is why a lot of people are expecting another low-scoring game Sunday. And the number one team, and actually number one by a pretty significant margin, are the Titans at 206.5. And I'm sorry, I can't take anything about the Titans seriously when you're 0-2 and you played the Bears and the Jets. I don't have anything good to say about you. But these guys, the Steelers, in addition to that figure that I just gave, the total defense and the yardage, they're number one in takeaways in the NFL. Again, 4 interceptions and a fumble recovery. So, you can say, all right, the Falcons didn't look all that great offensively. Kirk Cousins certainly didn't look like his best self. And that Denver offense might be the worst thing we see all year, as you and I said when we walked out of that stadium.
But they're giving up only 8 points a game. I mean, granted, again, 2-game sample size, but still 10 points in one game, 6 points in another game. Like you said, they're leading the NFL in takeaways, and because the offense isn't turning the ball over, their turnover margin is however many takeaways they have, because the offense hasn't turned the ball over at all. So, I mean, you can make a really good argument that this is. I mean, I already thought that on paper, if they stay healthy, this is already a top 5 defense anyway.
Top 5. So, we agreed on that. We agreed on that before the season. Yes, top 5. But this is different. And this is, and the other thing I think you could take into consideration here as an intangible is that these guys, the defensive guys, they're not going to say this because they can't say this, but they're going out onto the field with the onus on them to win these games. And they've done that. They've performed situationally well enough to win situations, to win games.
Yeah, and a perfect example of that is Corey Trice's interception.
Oh, absolutely.
That might be the best example of that we've seen, that we'll see of it all year. I'm sure there'll be other instances in which the defense comes up big in a big spot, but that right there, I mean, the game was slipping away, kind of. The offense was not moving the ball. There seemed to be no life, no chance that they were going to put more points up on the board. And the Broncos just had that massive trick play that got them inside the 10. And then lo and behold, Corey Trice makes a great play in zone coverage, reads the eyes of the quarterback, drops back, finds a space that he should be taken away, does it, and makes a phenomenal play on it for his first career pick. That was a huge play.
It's all in the eye of the beholder, though. Did you see Bo Nix's response whenever the
Denver?
I did. Oh, my goodness. I'll share it for everybody else. That he was asked by a Denver reporter, what happened on that play there, Bo? And he said, I dropped back and threw it to the other team. And that's actually all I see when I see that play. I'm sorry. I'm happy for Corey Trice. It's a good story coming off missing a full year to the knee injury and everything. But wow. What a ball that was. But look, they're going to get tested. This defense is going to get tested by Justin Herbert and the Chargers, by J.K. Dobbins and the Chargers, I guess might be a better way to put that, the way they're running the ball, the way he's running the ball. And I'm actually looking forward to that for the first time out of these 3 weeks, more than I am seeing what the Steelers offense does. I want to see what these guys do when they're pushed.
You know who else is looking forward to that matchup with J.K. Dobbins is Patrick Queen.
I would imagine he is.
Patrick Queen, former Ravens teammate with J.K. Dobbins. So, he's looking forward to that too. He had nothing but good things to say about J.K. Today. He said that they're still friends. They still text and talk with each other. So it's going to be a really interesting game. But again, what if Patrick Queen doesn't end up with any tackles because that defensive line continues to just dominate up front?
Here's the best thing I can say about this defense to date, and it's this. I don't think they've scratched the surface. I really don't. We have not seen. Remember what Peyton Wilson told me in Atlanta? He said, wait a few weeks. And he wasn't talking about the defense as a whole. He was just talking about himself. Yep. Okay. He feels that there's a lot more there, especially once both he and Queen get more comfortable. Remember, they're both new to this, and also remember that Minkah Fitzpatrick has yet to lay his hand on a football, and that's going to happen. And when it does, you're going to see the takeaways. You're going to see the yard. You're going to see all that other stuff. Minkah's working his way back as well. And you're right. It starts with the defensive line. It just does.
Yeah, this really just goes to show that even in today's NFL, it never changes. Doesn't matter how much the game changes. It never changes that winning up front changes everything for what you're doing on that side of the ball, because that defensive line is just absolutely dominating up front, and it is making everything easier for both the linebackers and the secondary, which, again, 2 games and Minkah's been relatively quiet. He hasn't had to be Minkah because they're dominant, because the front 7 is just dominating. And even TJ, obviously he was TJ in week 1, but a relatively lackluster game for TJ standards in week 2. I mean, he sacked Bo Nix by Azora.
He was the only guy that wasn't drawing holding penalties too. I mean, everybody else in the stadium was issued. You were issued a holding penalty, and TJ didn't get one.
Yeah, it is true, but yeah, just with what Cam Hayward at his age, just watching the game back a couple of times, man, Cam Hayward's still beast up there.
He sheds like nobody. Still in this league, he has a blocker on him for no more than a split millisecond, and then he's loose. Incredible.
He's just strong as an ox. He really is.
It's a really good. Sorry, it's a really good. That's all I was going to say here to finish this up. It's a really, really good defense. I think we can agree on that, right?
I do agree with that, and that defensive line, Cam Hayward, Larry Ogunjobi, Keanu Benton, those 3 guys, along with the guys who are rotating in, Mon Adams and Isaiah Loudermilk, those guys rotating in, it's just been a really, really, it's been one of the most pleasant surprises of the season so far.
When we come back, guys, J1Q.
Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different. Help prevent gun accidents, misuse, and theft. Keep firearms safe and secure when not in use. For safe storage options, visit projectchildsafe.org.
Welcome back. It's time for today's J1Q, and this one comes from Rob in Bradford, PA.
My question this afternoon is for an O-line is still trying to gel, an aging quarterback in Russell Wilson who has a nagging calf injury. How willing or reluctant are you to put him behind that line until we know he's fully healthy and that line has gelled?
I guess there's a couple ways to answer that, Rob, because it sounds almost at first blush like you're suggesting it's okay to put Justin Fields back there because it's okay for him to get hurt. I know that's not what you meant. You meant that Fields is going to be more mobile and more able because he's healthy. I would think that it would have about maybe this much to do with what you just said, Rob. I think Mike Tomlin isn't over evaluating any of this. He's going into a week saying, all right, I have this guy. He's 100% ready in Fields, and he's going to be able to practice Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. He's going to be set in all of his prep for the Chargers, and he's going to be the guy who walks onto the field and runs through the tunnel, by the way, for the home opener as the 2-0 quarterback. Okay? I don't know that any of the thought processes that are happening right now with Tomlin, and this is all him, by the way, are going to be a whole lot more elaborate than that. So when Tomlin gets defensive on this subject, I think that's part of the reason why. When Tomlin says, I already told you guys, meaning the media, I think it's because he understands that all he wants is to have a healthy, viable quarterback who's confident in everything else, ready to go this coming Sunday. And from there, he genuinely, I believe this, doesn't have the next step in mind. Because how could he? Think about this for a second. Let's say Fields goes out there. I mean, nobody's going to want to hear this, but let's say Fields goes out there against the LA defense and just soils himself. It's just a big mess. All of a sudden now you're going to have everybody everywhere saying, hey, how's Russ's calf anyway? And the head coach will be one of those guys. So I don't think there's a reason to take any of this stuff too far, certainly not to any conspiratorial extent. Not that you did. Tomlin's just looking to beat the Chargers. That's it. Nothing else to it. That's how he rolls. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody checking out Double Shot, and we're going to have another one of these tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern.